An unknown white male adult shot Paul Stein in the head at the northeast intersection of Washington and Cherry Streets. Shortly thereafter, teenager Rebecca Robbins saw the suspect in the front passenger seat of the taxi from her house across the street. The killer was in the process of taking Stein's wallet, the taxi keys, and a piece of his shirt. The killer wiped down the inside of the cab with the white cloth. Then he exited the taxi, went over to the driver's side, and wiped the inside and outside of the taxi. At 9:58, Lindsay Robbins called the police, and the operator told the police dispatcher that a crime was in progress. The robbery suspect was an NMA, Negro male adult. At about 10 p.m., patrol officers Armand Placetti, age 26, and Frank Pita, age 34, arrived at the crime scene. They found Paul Stein leaning over the front seat. They summoned an ambulance. Then they requested more police units to search the area for the suspect. Lindsay told the officers he went north on Cherry. At about 10:05 p.m., patrol officers Donald Folk, age 30, and Eric Zelms, age 22, were traveling on Jackson Street near the intersection with Maple. Folk saw a white male walking east on Jackson Street near the intersection. The man did not match the description of a NMA, and they drove on. After speaking to the teenagers, the suspect description was amended to WMA. Officers Folk and Zelms returned to the area where they saw the man, but he was gone. At 10:10 p.m., a PEH ambulance number 82 arrived at the crime scene. Ambulance attendant Stuart Dossett. Around the same time, Inspector Walter Crack, age 44, who was off duty, arrived at the crime scene. He requested dog units and fire trucks with floodlights to search the Presidio. The San Francisco police began to search the Presidio near Pacific Street, and the military police were notified and helped with the search. Well, it didn't take long for everybody to know that the Zodiac killer had killed Paul Stein, because he mailed a letter to the Chronicle on Monday morning with a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt enclosed in the letter.
The San Francisco police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly, instead of holding road races with their motorcycles, seeing who could make the most noise. The car drivers should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out of cover.
4 weeks later, the Zodiac mailed 2 more letters. This second letter, on the 9th, mentions the interaction between the Zodiac and the 2 patrolmen. In true Zodiac fashion, He wrote, "Must print in paper," the section about the interaction with the two police.
Two cops pulled a goof about 3 minutes after I left the cab. I was walking down the hill to the park when this cop car pulled up, and one of them called me over and asked if I saw anyone acting suspicious or strange in the last 5 or 10 minutes. And I said, yes, there was this man who was running by waving a gun, and the cops peeled rubber and went around the corner as I directed them, and I disappeared
into the park, a block and a half away, never to be seen again. Officer Folk wrote up this memoir to describe the Zodiac killer in more detail. And then the original is on the left, and then a transcription is on the right, if you want to pause the video and read it. He wasn't nimble when he was walking, and when he turned to walk away, he wasn't like a smooth, athletic person. To me, he seemed a little overweight and on the clumsier side. Officer Folk's description. Subject at no time appeared to be in a hurry, walking with a shuffling lope, slightly bent forward.
Search goes on in San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer. The elements involved today included psychiatrists, astrologists, and police guards for school buses. Terry Drinkwater reports.
School children are nice targets. I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, shoot out the tires, and then pick off the kiddies as they come bounding out. That was the threat of the Zodiac Killer. Now, every day, police cars follow the buses which would be likely targets. Officers armed with shotguns take the threat seriously. The psychotic killer has already murdered 5. One at a lover's lane near a lake just north of San Francisco. 3 others in nearby Vallejo. The latest, a taxi driver in San Francisco. The Zodiac Killer seems to crave publicity. He sent letters and cryptograms to newspapers and the police, recounting his crimes, threatening more murders, and making Bay Area residents very edgy.
In his violent movements, or rather the violent periods that he has been in,
Marina walks her life
he's an absolutely
She never looks above her feet.
completely merciless
She never smiles, nor
He
does
calmly
she
goes about his
speak.
business of
The Zodiac Killer didn't mention Cherry Street in his letter. He mentioned the San Francisco police specifically, and he wrote, "They did not search the park properly, and they could have just waited till he came out of cover." Questions that I have: why hide in the park? Why not just leave in your car? Why didn't the Zodiac mention the search dogs if he was hiding in the park? And why the effort to cut Paul Stein's shirt to mail it to the Chronicle on Monday? Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved, and next weekend we'll have a big episode on the John Benet Ramsey case, and then the following weekend I will introduce the murder of Sherry Jo Bates in Riverside in 1966, and does it have any connection to the Zodiac Killer case? So I'll see you then.